Good morning to most, good afternoon to others, and good evening to the viewing audience across the pond. I am your host, Jason Miles, here for another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for taking the time to check us out. If you are a returning listener, subscriber, or one of our very valued patrons, thank you for your patience. I want to thank everyone that made it out to the inaugural TIR Halloween Spooktacular Horror Movie Marathon. We watched some classics and some should-be classics. It was a good time, and if you weren't able to make it, it's okay. Almost 8 hours will be available on Patreon, filled with the in-movie banter, which I have to admit was pretty limited because people really did get into the movies. And that's another reason why I am so tardy to the party. We watched a fifth movie. We didn't finish the last one. We started watching a fifth movie last night, 1949's Impact. Get into it. We watched a lot of movies last night. If you appreciate the programming on TIR and want to be part of our movie nights and more, become a patron or a paid YouTube subscriber for as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year. You can have access to join us for the champagne rooms, past and present, and you can join us for our fun movie night watch parties like we had last night. Now, let me get to why you people are here in the first place. Why all the Zoran hate from the left? Next week, the future of the Democratic Party might be redefined, but not by its own accord. If Zoran Mandami and Graham Planter win their elections, it could mark the beginning of a new era for the Democrats. The rise of these charismatic populist figures whose campaigns resonate because they speak directly to people's material concerns could shift the party's messaging away from its current defensive refrain. Hey, at least we're not those crazy Republicans. No, seriously. But it isn't just the GOP and the Democratic Party establishment that Mandami and Planter are up against. They're also facing skepticism from within the left. Critics argue that Zoran isn't left enough, while Planter has been accused of being a racist in socialist clothing. Recently, Planter had to answer for a tattoo he claims to have gotten while serving in Croatia, a skull and crossbones design that turned out to be a Nazi symbol. To make matters worse, Current Affairs ran a piece alleging that his tough guy ideology still carries traces of racism and homophobia, suggesting that these tendencies aren't just a part of his past. Meanwhile, Mandami's platform, calling for free public transit and city-run grocery stores, has been dismissed by some leftist commentators as insufficiently radical. Considering that the last mayor campaigned on reinstating stop and frisk, this kind of critique feels less serious, like a less serious analysis, and more like the self-defeating purity test of online leftism. So the question becomes, do we want to win elections or win contests and ideological piety? Do we want to improve people's lives or just go viral with the takedown thread about why someone isn't real left? The irony is that while segments of the left tear each other apart over ideological credentials, the most unlikable minority group in the country, the right, moves in lockstep. They've been not only drafting legislation through Project 25, but implementing it, as seen with the current government shutdown and ICE raids. As much of the emerging left's growth has happened online, has that digital context made it more reactionary, more inclined to attack its own? After the energy of 2020 dissipated without clear direction or institutional grounding, we now find ourselves on the verge of two potentially historic wins: a socialist mayor of New York City and the unseating of an establishment Democrat in the Senate. Yet the loudest voices in the room seem more interested in gatekeeping and organizing. So what exactly is the goal here? Because it doesn't feel like winning. Now, here to discuss this with me, I have my homie, my dog, my co-host, the man of the Mau Mau Hour, the Pascal Robert. Pascal, are you alive?
Peace and greetings to the chat. Peace and greetings to the audience. Peace and greetings, Jason Miles.
You got snatched up by Hurricane Melissa. Has that hurricane affected your connections? Maybe a little bit. Also, we have the female voice of reason on the show, M. Toussaint.
Hello.
It happens.
I just wanted to say Prince Andrew is homeless now. Hey.
I'd like to be Andrew homeless.
He's still a prince though, apparently.
Yeah. So, he's homeless now.
Who among us
He's
wouldn't want to
he got
be?
a fucking dirt smudged face.
Yeah. He's working in the coal mines.
Jesus Christ. Can you spare a pay? No, he's not. He's not. He wishes. And the man that inspired this show, Professor Alexander Herbert.
What's up, y'all? What's going on?
Melissa zapped Pascal. Melissa or Big Leftist, one of the two.
Yeah, it was it's the anti-Mamdani people that canceled him.
I feel that way.
They finally got together to do one thing right, and it was to zap the voice of the black man.
Yeah, when that comment came in that black people shouldn't be supporting Mamdani, that's when Pascal was like, "All right, I'm out. I'm
That's all I needed to see."
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot when you mentioned certain people's names, you're going to get the people that don't watch the show that just come in to say ridiculous things. How much of the current left critique of figures like Mandami and Planner, Alex, comes from an internet native political culture that values purity and callouts over coalition and pragmatism?
I mean, I think most of it, but the one thing we have to keep in mind is that what happens on the internet and those kind of call out people is very important in the same way that it allowed Mamdani and Graham Plattner to emerge as viable candidates. You know, their campaign managed to harness social media so effectively, and that's something that Andrew Cuomo admitted and regretted. That means we have to also acknowledge that it could have the opposite effect. It can derail campaigns in the same way. And you know, both major parties are starting to realize this. The Republicans already have, of course, they harnessed their social media very effectively during the Trump campaign, and they still maintain it, even though even though the sort of guard of the right wing media is changing. So like Nick Fuentes is becoming, moving up a space. Charlie Kirk is out, by default.
But Charlie Kirk, that's interesting you say that. You know, as far as media goes, I mean, he's bigger than this show, but he wasn't that big as far as the right wing media goes, because he actually was out in the street trying to build something with Turning Points USA. Do you think Nick Fuentes is trying to fill the actual political void, or is he just filling a media space?
No, I think what the right benefits from is they have multiple Charlie Kirks. So you're right. I mean, his reach wasn't as big as it could or should have been, but you get enough of people like that with slightly differing views, and you put them together, it creates a pretty big base. Think about the Trump coalition that won. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk and his line. It was Christian Wright. It was Nick Fuentes and all those online guys, and Andrew Tate and all those. The whole manosphere backed him. Joe Rogan people. When you get enough of those influencers together, it can move continents. You know what I mean? And so I think that means that yes, we could say the criticism of Mamdani and Plattner has really been what's the word I'm looking for? It's really been pretty vitriol online, but it still matters in that sense, because those are primarily the people that vote too, people who are online perpetually. And even in the comments here, there are people that say Mamdani but not Plattner, yada yada. And I guess my purpose for seeing some kind of importance in doing a show like this is that these elections are on the horizon right now. And I want to ask your audience, that includes also the Black critics who are in the chat. I mean, they include, I'm including everybody here, whether you're a regular listener or not, to ask them what is their minimum program in terms of what they're trying to achieve in the country. Because if all your goal is, if your sights are only on the maximum program, this sort of broad term liberation, right? I'll use that term because it's one that people use, liberation of all peoples. That's your maximum program. How do you expect to get there? Because from the looks of it, from the way that power currently operates in this country, if you only keep the maximum program in mind, you're not really going to achieve anything. And that's something that the right knows. And that's something that if you look at the way that Trumpism and the right has emerged, it's something that they were really good at. They sort of set the agenda in the first Trump campaign. They worked out a lot of kinks. And there were a lot of people on the right who were very unhappy with how Trump 1 worked, because they didn't think it went far enough. It wasn't their maximum program. But now, after years of first Trump 1 and then the failures of Biden, slowly turning the Supreme Court the way that it did, now changing the electoral map. I mean, this is a long-term plan that if the right were as subject to these kind of purity tests that the left is, they wouldn't have been able to achieve it at all. I mean, not even talking about even just Plattner and Mamdani. You could think of people like AOC too. The amount of hate that she gets for wearing a dress that somebody, gave her to wear for whatever reason. A lot of it just seems to me like it's vindictive and it's kind of jealousy. You know what I mean? It's like I can't really explain it all that much. I mean, I know, and I do want to say that, like, none of these candidates, in my opinion, not Mamdani, not Plattner, not AOC, none of them, not even Bernie Sanders, are perfect to me. They're not my maximum program candidates. They have problems. They have big problems that I wouldn't myself advocate for. But are they the next logical step from where we have been so far? Absolutely. It has to be. They're because the other thing that people have to keep in mind is, and Jason, you probably know this too, it takes an enormous amount of energy, time, and dedication to actually even launch a campaign. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it does.
So how many of these people, how many of these critics are willing to even do that?
Well, do you think, I want to ask this to Pascal. Do you think a lot of this has to do with the fact that everyone has the ability with social media to be a media critic? And what I mean by that is not just voice your opinion, but have your opinion then be echoed and liked. Do you think that has any kind of sway on people and their pure opinions, Pascal?
I think that's definitely part of it. But I think that one of the larger problems we have here is that we have a left that has no connection to the history of what it means to be a leftist or to be an active left politically. We are basically a millennial left that came about during the Sanders election, who have been divorced from an active functioning concept of what left political activity historically has meant. As a result, most of their takes are online, and as a result, they're much more temporary and ephemeral in terms of understanding what exactly politics really means. What I'm trying to say more succinctly is that we have a left who has a very, very immature view of what politics actually means, because they came into a politics at a time when social media and electoralism was dictating what it meant to be a leftist. And as a result, their ability to see what a long-term strategy for effective politics is really means.
You want to elaborate on that?
What I'm trying to say is that, to me, leftism and electoralism are not necessarily two divergent strategies, but electoralism is simply a strategy of left politics. Organizing, mobilizing, other outside game efforts are necessary to have an effective movement politics. I would argue, and I've argued in the past, that you cannot have an effective left strategy without movement politics. I think part of the problem we have when we focus on this electoralism is that we think it's a band-aid for a bullet wound. And we think that it's going to solve all our problems, when we realize that part of the problem we always have, even when we get our people elected like AOC, like a Bernie, like a Mamdani, is that there's no outside pressure to enact to ensure that they stay loyal to a program that is in tune with our movement demands. So as a result, because we haven't had a left trained in movement politics, we are stuck in a position where we believe that worshiping individuals and people in positions is a way to get into electoralism. How is it any different than what Democrats do?
Toussaint, you want to add to that?
These politicians are influencers. I think that's how a lot of people regard them. They might as well be podcasters. Not that I'm trying to invite a MAMDANI podcast. I don't need the smoke. I don't need the competition here. Stay out of my time slot, MAMDANI. But I think that's what people are familiar with. And in terms of, I guess, canceling, that's how people know to hold people accountable. They don't really know how to hold a politician accountable. We're not like well versed in that, especially if they're not in power yet. Well, we don't know how to leverage what we have to get them to say or do more of the things that we want. I just want to read this real quick. I saw somebody posted this on Twitter. Zohran Mamdani caught lying that he understood Plato's allegory of the cave. Yet when asked to explain it, he seemed to instead explain Baudrillard's theory of simulacra and simulation, where reality has been replaced by symbols and signs, which seems similar to Plato's theory, but is not the same. That is a call out.
Was that a spoof, or was that a real? Was they really? He was being facetious, right?
They were being facetious, yes.
I'll tell you right now, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I couldn't tell you what Beauregard's nuts are doing.
I'm glad you can't, actually.
But that is support. That is support, actually. That's how we support our politicians now. And I guess how we actually would call them out and hold them accountable would be different these days as well, for people who are not well versed in being politically active, like really active, not just tweeting.
But do you guys see my point about the fact that we have a left right now that's basically immature in its political development and understanding of what long-term strategy really means?
I would raise you this, actually. I don't disagree with that, but I'd raise you this. MT brings up an interesting point where she says people are looking at politicians as podcasters, people with just opinions. They don't. There's a disconnect for how actual politics works. It's just forcing votes and feelings and vibes. Is this just where we are as a society when it comes to the way we understand politics, Alex?
Yeah, I think partially that's it. I mean, so social media, podcasting, all of that has changed the game. And Kamala Harris still claims partially that she partially lost because she didn't go on Joe Rogan, just as an example. But I think a lot of good points are being raised. The thing that Pascal brought up is just this lack of political understanding in this country among the left, and I think that is a really important aspect, in the sense that, everybody always points to Bernie's so-called capitulation in 2016 as if it was some big betrayal. But what they fail to realize is this is how parties operate. The way that parties operate, the two dominant parties in this country. And when you run as a candidate under a party, Bernie Sanders is an independent. He ran under the Democratic Party, which allowed him to use the resources of the party, the campaign funding, the media coverage, et cetera, et cetera. It gave him the platform that he knew was what he needed to get attention. He lost. And as a exchange for agreeing to utilize the party's infrastructure, he had to capitulate once the party coalesced around a single candidate. That's an agreement that you have with the party. There's nothing that he can do, not even at the convention when they formally vote on somebody. That's out of his control. Was it a mistake on his part to run under the Democratic Party? I don't think so. You could say that now in retrospect. You could say, oh, well, he shouldn't have run. But none of you guys would know who Bernie Sanders was if he didn't do that. Now socialism is the conversation because he did that. Yes, he lost. Yes, he capitulated. But did he sell out? No, I don't think so. And it's a lack of political understanding, as Pascal rightfully pointed out, that I think is really important. That, this is why, you guys, listeners, and you guys know that I teach. I'm a professor. This is why you guys have to pay attention in your history and your politics classes and not fall asleep. I have who really fall asleep. I am. The other thing that I want to say is somebody in the chat brought up the idea of idol worship. And I think that's true. There's a reason why many of these ultra leftist accounts, it's all about Lenin and Stalin. And there's, they'll have the Black Panthers on there, and they'll have Che, and they'll have all of these historical figures, which are great, people that I admire as historical figures, people that were important in their time. But you got to also realize that the historical time and place is so delicate in the way that it determines how the struggle has to be played. We're not living in 1960s United States anymore. There's a party that wants us to go back to there, but we can't. We can never go back to that period in its purest form. We can never go back to 1848 in its purest form, or 1917 in its purest form. We can love and appreciate these revolutionaries for who they were and what they did. We've got to understand that the dialectic in our own time has moved to a different situation. We need to see the time and the place that we live in as historically contingent, which means that, are you going to get a Lenin, a Stalin figure that's going to run for the Senate of Maine? No, you're not. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. You're going to get somebody like Graham Plattner, who, and I know that in the chat, there's people that really hate them. But how many of you people have ever been to Maine? Do you know what Maine?
On the screen, I've been to Maine.
Pascal, you've been to Maine. I mean, in the chat.
I've been through Maine.
Were you on your way to England?
No, I went to school in New England, so I would drive through Maine to go to Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta go. I mean, Maine. Last time I checked the demographics, and that was maybe 3 years ago, I think it was like 80% white. It is just as New Hampshire and Vermont, it is a dominantly white state, which means that for the majority of Maine voters, if they see a white male who is this sort of strong arm working class guy, they're going to support him. And as long as he's in front of people advocating the right message, I think that it's extremely effective. Now, with somebody like Plattner, I think that it's perfectly reasonable for all listeners and everybody to see his tattoo and be skeptical and be like, all right, this guy has a past, right? He's got a dirty past, and we can see that. But as the left, people who advocate for rehabilitation, for reform, people that want to see people kind of wake up, we believe in conscientization, right? We believe in people changing their opinions and coming around to different ideas and to our side. We have to be willing to accept that this guy has done that, and we got to give him a chance because of that. And not only that, but how many military vets do you know? Or I'll put it this way. When you were growing up, all of us knew that one kid or two kids that were obsessed with military shit. They had, their most prized possession was like a decommissioned freaking Nazi grenade or something like that. They loved this stuff. They had the gas mask. They were all into it. And when we were young, we were just like, oh, whatever, like he's weird. And then, high school happens and his best option is he's going to join the military. He's going to live out his dream. And he gets back from the military. And he's like, that fucking sucked. I've changed my entire outlook. But at the same time, now that I've lost my identity as this military guy, I don't have an identity anymore. I'm just a white guy now. And so that's where, in my mind, that's where Graham Plattner was. Gets out of the military, sees the horrors of it. He always compares himself to J.D. Vance and saying that I wasn't sitting in an air-conditioned room. I was actually at the front line shooting at people. And then to get back from that, to have that experience and be able to say, I don't want anybody to ever have to experience that again. And so long as I'm in the Senate, I'll do everything I can to avoid that. You got to give him credit for that. And you got to be willing to say that, like, the dude has come around. Again, is he perfect? Probably not. But he's from Maine. He's going to represent the interest of Mainers. He's not going to represent the interest of New Yorkers or Californians. It's very different. What you would expect from a left-wing progressive socialist candidate from California is way different than what you would get from the equivalent in Maine. And we got to be able to deal with, we have to be able to confront that reality. But more importantly, what I think is most important is as a left, people who advocate for rehabilitation, giving people second chances, prison abolition, all this stuff, we have to be able to say people can change. People can, have their consciousizing moment where they come around and they say, you know what, my politics were kind of fucked up. Now, the other thing, and I'm going on in a rant here, the other thing that people say is, well, if he came around and he really had this enlightening moment, why didn't he get the tattoo removed, right? Why did he wait until now to get the tattoo removed? Okay, I'll tell you guys, as somebody that has a lot of tattoos, that sometimes you get tattoos and it's kind of expensive to get them removed.
It's not cheap.
And if you're running for Senate, you don't really expect anybody to see you shirtless. It's not something that your campaign rests on. Not only that, but this guy got his tattoo in, where was it? Croatia?
Mm-hmm.
He got his tattoo in Croatia while he was serving. When I travel somewhere, when I go anywhere with my friends, whoever, I get a tattoo. It's a memento to where I was at that time in my life. It's my souvenir, my version of a souvenir. And if something monumental were to happen where I'm like, oh man, I don't ever want to remember that time again, where I was in San Diego or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of mental gymnastics to get to a point to be like, I got to get this removed so I could never remember it again. And I'm not saying that that's not excusing it at all, but it's saying that, like, it's a difficult process. And again, it's one that we can't just say, oh, the guy should have invested in having it removed as soon as he decided to run for office. There's a whole bunch of different.
Look, I'll say this. If I have tattoos that I have the ability to cover, i.e. where I place them on my body, I place them there purposely so I could wear long sleeve shirts if I didn't want people to see them, then I probably won't get it removed. It is an expensive process. It's a very painful process, and I don't know why people think that he was walking around zig heiling all the time. And a lot of people have pasts. And this kind of gets to my next question. Is this purity culture an inheritance of the post-occupied disillusionment where ideological coherence replaced actual movement building?
Well, how do you guys rationalize the fact that we do have examples of politicians who seemed, I don't want to say socialist or left, but progressive, who got elected, who ended up being major disappointments? I think of Fetterman. I think of, what was her name from Arizona who left the blonde?
Kristen Sinema.
Cinema.
cinema, things of that nature, who did have support of left-leaning factions within the Democratic Party, who ended up being major disappointments. Now, my issue with Plattner is not so much that he has a tattoo. I'm not really energized about the tattoo or the online rhetoric. My issue is that this guy was a Blackwater merc until 2019. I mean, that's different than being in the military. Being a mercenary is a higher level of engagement than simply being a military.
He works for Blackwater. I know you want to believe everybody that works for Blackwater is walking around shooting random people, but a lot of them are running just security for private business.
Well, it's still a different level of engagement than simply being a volunteer soldier.
It's a job that you get that pays you a ton of money, 6 figures. So if you were military and you fall into one of those private security jobs, 6 figures walking in the door, you're making a ton of money.
I understand that, but at the same time, I would like to investigate more. So, what was his motivations behind that, and what exactly?
I would say money after the military. I mean, that's again, you're almost, to me. I'm sure tons of people are going to disagree. It feels like too many spy movies, and not an understanding of you don't make that much money in the military.
No, you don't make just.
And when you get out, you don't necessarily have a skill that unless you're going to work in law enforcement. So when you find out that there's tons of money to be made overseas and it's just piling up in an account, because I worked with people that got hit with IUDs that would come to the Gulf of Mexico because they got injured so bad. They just send you back when you get injured. They kind of dispose of you, and you have to be overseas so long before you get hit with the capital gains hit. So I worked with cats that would get hit real bad with a capital gains hit, either people that drove trucks over there for private companies or people that worked for Blackwater over there. And to assume that these people have some sort of ideological bend one way or another, not really, not as much as one would think. From the people I worked with, from the rank and file people I worked with, I didn't work with Eric Prince.
Well, I still think for me, it's something that I would like to see him explain more in terms of his personal experience. That's the only issue I have with Plattner per se. I know he's kind of a big militarist. I would add, for someone who's kind of anti military intervention, I'd like to know, is he dedicated to a foreign policy in which anti-imperialism or anti-intervention is something that he is motivated by? Or is he basically kind of like a left-wing interventionist? You know?
Toussaint, I know you don't like Graham. What's his name? I'm sure you have something to say here.
I don't think it's really about liking him. I would not opt to have a beer with him, as was the standard for George W. Bush at some point. But it's not really about that for me. I just feel like his politics don't really match mine. I have a lot of the questions that Pascal has as well. It's not like voting for Mamdani, where he is going to, or campaigning to be the mayor of New York City. As a senator, Graham Plattner would have an effect on people outside of his state. So I have my own questions about Graham Plattner. Like,
What are they?
Is there a military budget that he's going to say no to? Is there a war that he's going to say no to? I feel like I still have questions about that sort of thing. Where does he lie in terms of being anti-imperialistic?
Is it just because he was in the military?
No.
Why?
It may be because I'm in New England, but and I've watched more speeches and content of his, and he does talk a lot about the military. And his biggest thing is that because of the time he served, he doesn't want people to get involved in the military. He doesn't believe it's a thing that should be promoted. He's very anti-militaristic, Um, and so, that sort of goes to the other thing that I want to say is that I have a lot of friends who, after high school, they joined the military, some member of the services, and most of them got out and they said, "This is effed up. I don't want to do this," and they turned to leftism. Some of them didn't, and they just kind of went into regular old civilian normie life. But one thing that they all have in common is they have a deep, deep reverence for uniform. They love to wear uniforms. I mean, it's something that is so instilled in them by military service that when they get out, they don't have to wear a uniform anymore. They're kind of lost. And so they look for jobs that give them a uniform. That's why a lot of them become police officers. And that's why a lot of them become guards in some sense, because it brings them back to the uniform life that they have been conditioned to wear. And that's something that may go to explain why he would have worked for Blackwater in the capacity that he did. Because again, your identity, when you join the military, you take on the identity of a soldier, and then that's stripped away from you. Right, it's gone. Once you're done, you're so disillusioned with it. You still have the remnants of that identity that you want to kind of hang on to, but you don't know how to in civilian life. The other thing that I would say that separates him from other people like Fetterman, for example, is two things. Graham Plattner speaks very explicitly in class terms. He uses the word working class. He uses the words the rich class, etc. It's more, his rhetoric is much more in line with Bernie Sanders than Fetterman ever was, or any of these candidates, or even Tulsi Gabbard or whoever. They never talked in class terms in that, to the extent that they did. The other thing is that, yes, while the tattoo has surfaced as potential sabotage in his campaign, another thing that surfaced that doesn't really get much talk is the extent that Graham spent with Maine mutual aid in LGBTQ organizations in Maine, training them how to use firearms. I mean, that's as revolutionary as you can actually get, in my opinion. I mean, it's borderline anarchist, but it's
But
still
do you
something
think though there's a
that
disconnect?
never did, huh?
But Alex, do you think there's a disconnect there from people that claim to be quote unquote revolutionary or understand revolutionary politics, where a lot of people in, not a lot, but there were members of the Black Panther Party that had military experience. Military experience was something that you didn't shun. It was actually something that was appreciated because you knew how to use firearms and you understood tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal?
No, I don't think that he should be. First of all, listen, we have great comrades who are former military. Marcus, we have
Mac?
Mac. I mean, we have very. I think. A perfect example. Glenn Ford was a former Navy officer. Was in the Navy. I mean, we've had great comrades who come out of the military. So I'm not one of these people. Please don't confuse my apprehension about Plattner's time as a mercenary with me saying that, oh, because he was in the military, that means that we shouldn't trust him. Because I've known too many very good comrades that we've had that come out of the military. That being said, the Iraq War was a very rough time. That was a rough war, and I would just like to know more about. I haven't had the luxury to hear Plattner speak as effusively about his opinions on military intervention as Alex has, and I would really like to get a further interrogation of what his position is on, say Trump sending warships to the Caribbean to possibly kick out Maduro in Venezuela, or say, Trump dropping bombs on Iran to protect Israel, or the Ukraine war, or a variety of other current events that involve militarization. I'd simply like to hear his thoughts, because as a U.S. senator, he may very well be on one of these foreign policy commissions that affects whether or not we go to war. So it'd be interesting to really kind of hear him discuss that more effectively.
Tucson?
Yeah, well, I agree with what Pascal said. Certainly not disqualifying him because he was in the military. I'm disqualifying him in my mind because I can't disqualify him as a candidate I would vote for, as I do not live in Maine. I trust the Maine voters to make their own decision for who they want representing their state. But, the fact is, he would be a senator if he gets into office, and that affects the rest of us as well. So, yeah, I do have those same considerations when it comes to this person. I mean, I understand that he had done some organizing in the past, but I don't know that he needs to be a senator right now. I People have said that, well, the opposition and Cuomo and Eric Adams have said that Mamdani has only been a rapper and I guess a rich kid or something.
He was an
Uh,
assemblyman, wasn't
yes, and I think that that's better experience to go into an office, a higher office with a lot of responsibility. So that makes more sense to me
he? So you're all
than.
about professionalism.
I feel like there is something to be said for being a more leftist or progressive candidate and having some bona fides about you and some track record. I feel like it's a bit of a leap to go from that kind of organizing to going to be a senator.
Alex, you want to?
Yeah. The bottom line is that I think the consensus we're all coming to, and one that I agree with, is that it's always healthy to have skepticism of people that emerge into spotlight that are running for major office. I think that it's completely healthy. We should always have skepticism of anybody, and whether it's Mamdani, AOC, Graham, or whoever. But one thing that effective Republicans, and one thing that is actually a communist tactic is don't criticize before what's a good phrase? Don't criticize before the race has started or before the buck is let loose, right? That there's a certain point to which if people are advocating for the ideas in the world that you want to see, there's really no way to tell how legitimate they are until they actually have a chance to do so. If somebody is claiming that they're a socialist or a communist or whatever, and you align with that, and the rhetoric is all right, the way that they're talking about it, the fluency in the way that they discuss those topics, the responses that they come up with, some kind of history of organizing with that stuff, you have to sort of give them the benefit of the doubt, because the other option is, Andrew Cuomo or Susan Collins, and that's not a good option. I think that one thing that I practice is never shit talk would be comrades. This is something that the Soviet Union actually was really good at.
So Alex is throwing people into gulag. Is that what we're saying?
No, it's more like don't criticize would-be comrades publicly. And that's the big thing. That's where social media comes in, is that people put Mamdani, Plattner, AOC, Bernie, all these people on blast in a public forum. And when that happens, even if you mean it just as skepticism, even if you mean it just as, reservation, it's still out there, and people misread it. People misinterpret it. They think that what you mean is that you shouldn't vote for this person and it's terrible, or this person is a terrible person. You have to show some kind of reserve. I remember in my grandfather's generation, every election I'd ask him, who you voted for? And I won't tell you, because for them, that generation, voting was a very private thing that you did. You didn't really discuss it. We have completely 250% surpassed that. Or we don't do that anymore. We've overturned that. Voting is a very public thing. Yes, you do it privately, but everybody talks about in public who who their person is or who their person isn't. And I think that when it comes to people who would be comrades, who are using the right language and everything like that, we have to kind of curtail our public criticism of it. But again, it's always good to have skepticism of people. I have skepticism of, even if a blatant, even if, you know, the leader of the Communist Party of the United States ran for office, I'd still have skepticism. I think that's perfectly fine. The other notion, one that I've seen, is that all of these candidates are just trying to, you know, bring people into the Democratic Party, and that notion drives me insane, because again, it goes back to Pascal's idea that people just don't understand politics. First of all, Bernie Sanders has never changed his party affiliation to Democratic Party. He's run with Democrats before, in order, as I said, to use their campaign. Mamdani runs with Democrats in order to use their campaign infrastructure. That doesn't mean that these people are establishment Democrats. It just means that this is how politics, unfortunately, has to work. And what I always say to people is, if you want to run a candidate third party, I always say good luck. In the United States right now, because of the way that our electoral laws are structured, you will never have a third party victory, ever. It will never, ever, ever happen. I don't care how popular the person is. I don't care if PSL throws their most disciplined communist candidate out there with all the rhetoric and everything. They will never win a Senate, a federal election, maybe a local election, something like that, because of the way that American politics operates.
Pascal, you want to add to that?
Well, you know, third party politics is definitely something that's very, very treacherous way to try to organize around the United States because of the two-party system. As someone who has voted for third parties in the past, as someone who believes that we have to break up this duopoly, I would say that as an organizing strategy, you can use third parties as a means to gain the actual grassroots support to challenge local politics. Bernie Sanders became a senator not as a Democrat. Bernie Sanders is an independent and became a senator from Vermont. So there are ways in which you can have candidates that are outside the duopoly get positions in local politics if you organize around them. Has the Green Party done that effectively? Not so much, but it doesn't mean it's totally impossible. But I understand Alex's point in terms of actually major electoral politics. For example, the presidency, the chances of having a third-party president in the United States is beyond slim to none. But again, for me, that doesn't mean that you stop the exigency of needing to organize around third-party candidates, because the duopoly is just stifling American politics around capital. Because we have two bourgeois parties in the United States. We have the left flank of capital, which is the Democrats, and the conservative right flank of capital, which is Republicans. Both of them are capitalist parties. And unless we find a way to have a party that represents our anti-capitalist socialist politics, we're going to be trapped within the mechanisms and the mantra of the bourgeois political parties. And I don't think it's a good look, frankly, for the long term for socialism. I think part of the long-term strategy should be to build a socialist political party.
And how do we start?
You know, I'll say that I completely agree with that, but I want to respond to one of the commenters who said, shouldn't the left be working to change those laws? Again, my question would be, how do you change those laws? You have to elect people in office who you believe are good faith actors who are willing to change those laws. Bernie Sanders has expressed, I mean, every time he talks about changing electoral laws in the United States to reflect a more democratic system. You can't, I don't know how you're going to, I mean, do a thought experiment for yourself. Think about how could you get somebody, Jason, you're going to be our candidate. How the fuck are you going to change the laws unless you are in office?
Yeah.
Right? And how are you going to get in office? From a third party? Like I said, federally, not going to happen, whether Senate or president or even in the president's circle. Unless you're aligned with a party, you will not get that opportunity. So this is what I mean by the minimum and maximum program. The minimum program is getting people in office who express an awareness that the electoral laws have to change. That's Bernie Sanders. That's MAMDANI. That's Graham Plattner, right? That's AOC. They're not perfect candidates, but at least I have the faith. I have good faith. I think that they're good faith actors, that they see the problems with electoral politics. Why do I see that? Well, AOC is typically on committees where she explicitly says this stuff to people. You can watch it on C-SPAN. Bernie Sanders says it every time the man talks. So I believe that they understand that this system has to change. So if we ran Jason on a third party platform, you would get 3% of the vote, right? And then your goal for overturning those electoral laws is gone. How do you expect to overturn the electoral laws, to fix the electoral system in our country without getting people in office, is my question. And how do you get people in office that do not use the existing parties to get there? There's no third party that has the infrastructure to do it. Even the Green Party is, AOC had that criticism, I think, of the third part of the Green Party that said, why are they always running for president? Why don't they focus their energy in grassroots local organizing? And there's truth there. There's a lot of truth there. So that would be my response to, shouldn't the left be working to change these laws? Yes, absolutely. That's the point of voting for these less than perfect candidates, because at least they're willing to do it. They've all expressed interest.
Do you want to add something to that, Tucson?
I guess I'll speak for myself, and I'll say that I'm not looking for any perfect candidates. I think perfection is not on the table. But I will tell you about a lovely experience I had yesterday. I got a call from someone from the Mandani campaign. Mm-hmm. They wanted to know if I was going to vote or if I had voted already. And I asked a question about early voting and getting a ballot. And the guy was like, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know where you would get a ballot to vote early. I've never voted before. I'm 18 years old.
Whoa.
I was like,
were you like, what are you doing, kid? I mean, adult.
That's awesome. And I was like, thank you so much for even doing this. A lot of people wouldn't be on the phones. I wasn't on the phones. I volunteered for Bernie Sanders and I did the texting, which I must say I was very successful at. I got promoted. Anyway, so I'm talking to this guy and I was like, okay, it's all right if you don't know that. I'll find out. And, he tried to give me some information. And I said, is there anything you can tell me about what Mamdani's volunteers are supposed to do after Election Day, regardless of the outcome? Do you know of any plans? And he said, no, all of volunteers' plans stop at Election Day. We don't have like marching orders to do anything from there. Mm-hmm. I can understand why they would do that. I hope he doesn't do what Bernie did, which was sort of dismantling his volunteer army, because the work doesn't stop when these people get into office anyway. It's not enough to just vote for people. If you're really serious about this, you have to get a lot more politically engaged, and voting is the least you can do. So I am looking forward to seeing how I can help support Mayor Mandani, besides correcting how people pronounce his name. Hopefully there's a lot more work for me to do.
You have to organize more Wu-Tang concerts?
Maybe.
Didn't Bernie kind of send his volunteers and stuff to that organization, Our Revolution? Like, didn't that become the place where his volunteers could continue to organize?
I don't think that link was made maybe as strongly as it could have, because I didn't go there. And I wasn't funneled into that. People were trying to funnel each other, person by person, into the DSA, and then also the Black DSA. But I didn't see people.
Does
Mhm.
the black DSA have different water fountains than the other DSA?
My understanding is the water fountains are all inclusive. The Black DSA. Never been segregated. How about
They
that?
don't. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna say that. No.
Do they give out Afro pics with the Black Power fist?
Yeah, the black DSA. So if a black person goes to join the DSA, they're like, "Oh, sorry, your line's over there."
Yes. I think your interests will be better handled over there, comrade of color.
Comrade. But over there is all dingy and dirty. Yeah, it's the black DSA. I don't know what to tell you.
They ain't got no books. Sorry.
My biggest thing, though, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because, like I said, those elections are coming up, and I'm worried that we've all expressed and made good points. Toussaint, Pascal, Jason, sometimes your points are all right, but we've all made good points, and I worry that this purity test or this litmus test, whatever you want to call it, of these candidates, the skepticism, the healthy skepticism that you should have, turns into sabotaging what could be otherwise effective opportunities to organize or to be organized. If Mamdani wins the mayoral election, which he probably will, by all means, get on social media, start criticizing him as the mayor. That's your job. That's what the left does. That's what we have to do. We have to continue pushing the buck forward. But to do it prematurely at this point, before he's even in office, I think you're sabotaging any kind of progress that you could have. Because again, you have to have at least enough faith in these people to say, well, is Graham Plattner going to round up immigrants in Maine and deport them? Probably not. Right? It's something that he's definitely not on board with. It's something that he's explicitly condemned. And so, okay, that's a starting point. He's talking all this like leftist language. He's talking in terms of class. And so, okay, I'll give him the chance. We'll see what happens. As soon as he becomes senator, subject him to the criticism that you do. I think that's the appropriate response. The thing with AOC is subject her to criticism too, but criticize her actual politics. You know, the fact that she got a dress that said "tax to rich" is like a big thing that people were so angry about. But is that really like a policy, political platform point of criticism, or is it just saying essentially, "I wish I got that dress," and AOC is not legitimate. She shouldn't be wearing that dress. I think it's silly. If you watch her on like C-SPAN, the things that she does in committees, the speeches that she gives, she's actually saying a lot of things that I think people would agree with, more so than not. And it's important to have. I mean, even just doing that town hall that her and Bernie Sanders did recently. I hate that it was on CNN, but I feel like that's the only news outlet that will take them now. But I think that kind of stuff is important.
Well, I have a question. Sorry, Jason. Um, there are some who would say that before these people get into office is the perfect time to criticize them. Do you feel like that's the sort of thing we should be doing for more establishment candidates to move them further left? Or do you feel like it's just inappropriate all the time? It's like when people feel like before they get into office is when you have leverage to get them to follow the program you want them to follow.
I think you have to listen to what they say in comparison to their opponents, whether that's the opponents within the party in the primary season, or their opponents in the opposite party in the actual electoral season. You have to listen to what they say. And, at a certain point when it's the electoral season, you have to realize that you have two options, essentially. And this isn't vote blue no matter who. This is, you should still listen to what people say and still be pushing them. When a protest vote is an effective political tool, then by all means make the protest vote. The question is, I guess, when is it a political tool? My thing with people like AOC and them, the reason I say criticize them after they're in office is because based on their rhetoric, the things that they talk about publicly, or in AOC's case, or Bernie's case, the bills that they've actually put out there to be considered. I know and I have faith that they're both good faith actors. They do what they think is in their best constituents' mind, and they also have to consider the politics of it all, because politics is a lot of negotiating. It's a lot of backroom maneuvering and stuff like that. In order to be on committees for the Democratic Party, AOC has to make some compromises. Sure. In order to be in the House Finance Committee or the Senate Finance Committee, Bernie Sanders has to make some political compromises. But it's not anything that compromises their core ideas, their core beliefs in any way. And so I think we have to consider that. We can always be pushing them in office, but when they're running for somebody like Graham Plattner, we have to consider the rhetoric. We have to consider his opponent or his opponents right now, because it's still primary season. So by all means, go out there and farm out other people that are running for Democratic position in Maine. See if any of them are better, if they're more appealing, if they're making the same class-based arguments and points that you want to hear. And if they're not, why would you destroy Graham Plattner's candidacy right before he's even facing a Republican? Why would you do it, right? You would want to give him the benefit of the doubt at that point, thinking, okay, there's nobody else that's stepping up to the plate to do this. We might as well give this guy the opportunity to prove himself. And if he doesn't, if he turns out to be John Fetterman, vote him out, get him out of there.
Why do people think he's John Fetterman? I mean, Fetterman was problematic up until his election. There were definitely people in his district that thought that he was kind of full of it. Why do people feel that there was such a quote unquote heel turn with Fetterman when maybe he was that man all the time? No one was listening.
I just use that example because Pascal brought up Fetterman. But I mean, I mean any kind of like person that, like Pascal referred to politicians who were voted in who then changed, or their politics seemed to change, right? If that happens, then vote them out if that's the case.
Pascal, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I also mentioned Kristen Sinema. She was another one who had a lot of support.
She was the Green Party.
Yeah, she had a lot of support from progressive factions of elements of the left, and then ended up really stabbing the Democratic Party in the back when she was in the Senate and working against the interests of the Biden administration and causing a lot of damage, as a matter of fact. So I was never really, by the way, I was never really moved by Fetterman. I always thought he was a little kind of wacky. And, I was never really taken by the whole Fetterman phenomenon by any stretch of the imagination.
Bill Cody kind of has a good question here in the chat. It says, a question for all. Why did Kyle Kulinski give up on organizing? He was the original force behind the election of most of the squad, and now he's just another YouTuber.
What is he going to organize? What is he going to organize for?
Say again? I didn't hear what you said.
What is he going to organize for?
I mean, just organizing in general. So you're saying once the job is done, then you go become a
no, what I'm saying is that was he our Revolution? What was his
Oh, so you don't know.
I know he was organizing, but I don't know what he was working under. What
I was saying, what was he organized for?
Yeah.
Toussaint, do you know? I know you are a little more in lockstep with these personalities on there.
No, he was doing what? Justice Democrats, I think.
Justice Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm. Seems like maybe he had a falling out with his other partners in Justice Democrats. Maybe he became disillusioned with some of the choices the people he was working with made. Maybe he was disillusioned with AOC, but I am sure that it's more than just disillusionment. I don't know why he's no longer organizing as far as we know. So I don't know why he's not publicly organizing. He's organizing hair appointments. He's doing that publicly. But this sounds like a question for him.
I mean, it's easier to be a political commentator. I don't know why. It's you don't have to have allegiance to anything. Everyone's saying something here, positive or negative. You don't have to have allegiance to anybody. You don't have to get anything done other than no. That's the truth of
You
it.
don't have to have allegiance.
It's a different position. Everybody doesn't have to play the same position in the revolution. If he is communications guy, then let him cook. A lot of people feel like he was a huge part of their political education and awakening, and you never forget your first. So they're
Wow.
still
Wow.
quite loyal to him.
What a metaphor. What's on your mind there?
Man. I mean, there is freedom in being able to call everybody not as good as they should be.
Mhm.
And
Which
that's
we're
a
not
freedom.
saying he does, or other podcasts necessarily are all doing.
All podcasts are doing it. I'll say it and feel real comfortable saying it.
Okay.
None of us have to make any sort of alliances to get anything done. We don't have to. It's not
No.
part of the
We're
description.
not politicians. It's a different position.
Exactly. It's a very different position.
Unless you're those podcasters who signed up contracts with the Democrats and got paid the big bucks.
Hey.
Oh, someone accused when we had Kuba on talking about the Gen Z people. Someone said that we were taking Washington Post talking points, and I was like, "Do you think the Washington Post sends out emails to me?"
Bezos money? You getting Bezos money, dude?
Getting Bezos money.
A check is the question.
The
I was
one,
like, "You think I'd be on air 15,000 days a week if somebody was giving me money?" And I'm nuts.
yeah, people don't consider that.
No.
The one other thing that I want to bring up, because I know we're past the hour, is this notion that's come out of the internet ultra left that Zoran Mamdani now is a Zionist.
What?
You haven't heard that? There was somebody in the chat.
Zionist? What?
Somebody in the chat even said that that he's a Zionist, and I sent Jason a bunch of memes, a bunch of posts that people have made about Zoran being a Zionist because he's made comments about working with Jews and that he hasn't. What is it? He hasn't explicitly called for the disappearance of Israel. And one thing that I want to say to those people, I'll put it very bluntly, is I'm not a Zionist, but I hate to burst your bubble. Israel is not going anywhere. It's not disappearing from the map. It is a state that is. I know, it's shocked, right?
Did you guess?
I did. Cancel this man.
It's a shocker, right? See, it's Soul Life in the chat say he loves Zionism. These people actually think that Zoran Mamdani is
I think Zoran Mandami realizes that he's living in the probably second most Jewish populated city in America, in the world, after Tel Aviv, and is making strategic alliances to basically neutralize the perception that he's a threat to the interests of the Jewish population, because he, number one, is cannot get elected with alienating the whole city's Jewish population, and number two, has to govern these people in a way that is equitable and fair. So I think he's dancing a dance that requires him to do what a politician does, which is play politics.
I mean, this seems obvious to me, but I guess that goes back to the political naivete Alexander was talking about. Maybe they want everybody to be like podcasters and just pop off whenever they want to, or be
Pop off.
pop off. Or be like people on social media and just say whatever you
There's
feel like.
here's some of these posts that I shared with Jason, for example. Donnie promises to keep Zionist scion of Luz, fortune / daughter of Epstein associates, as New York police IDF commissioner and move to placate Bill Wackman. I mean, like the number of these posts that have surfaced, and maybe they're all bots, I don't know, but I don't think so. I think a lot of it is just political naivety, and that's really it. There's
Yeah.
many more. Jason, go to the next one.
Okay, Tucson, I think you are right on with that comment that people want politicians to be like podcasters and just, well, why can't you just say the thing that I want you to say?
I've heard being a politician being compared to being a plumber. Like
What?
you don't really want to know the in and outs of what your plumber does. You think it's all Super Mario Brothers. It's not. And people don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what it takes to actually.
Now, this comment, let me tell you what I had a problem with this comment that Bernie made. Not the if you don't have borders, you don't have a nation, but the Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have secured the border. It ain't hard to do. Biden didn't do it. I think you're giving too much grace to Trump, and you're kind of really making it seem like he's doing something magic by saying all the immigrants must go. I mean, if that's your remedy for closing the border, okay, fine. That's interesting. But that's not exactly effectively securing the border, in my opinion.
Alex, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, my only thing is I don't disagree with Pascal. I think that Bernie's border or immigration policy hasn't always been perfect, and it's not by far. But at the same time, like there's a lot of leftists who don't realize that you do have to have a protected border to a certain extent. Like it's just part of the nation state model that we exist in. You have to remember that.
I wonder what they think the borders in other nations look like. Would you want me to show the rest of them, Alex?
Yeah, show the rest of them.
Okay. That was from Cracker
That was
Control.
the Bernie one. There's a lot of
Cracker Control.
Yeah, because
Cracker Control.
Nick Fuentes.
That person goes in my DMs sometimes and try to argue. It took Zoran Mamdani less than 24 hours to buckle to the hysteria and say, of course Hamas should lay down their arms, thereby adopting and legitimizing the main propaganda line being used to restart the genocide. Is that really Zionism?
I mean, what is the definition of ceasefire?
Exactly.
Ceasefire. I don't think it's too far from saying lay down your arms.
Yeah, that was part of the ceasefire agreement, was to lay down their arms. And I understand, like, obviously nobody trusted Israel to keep nobody trusted Netanyahu. I'll correct that, to keep the ceasefire deal. But now we're at a situation where they're blaming each other for violating it,
which is not totally unpredictable.
What's the next one? Also, keep in mind, like Pascal said, he's running for mayor of New York. He's not running for president of the United States. Right? It's very different. There's another one of the Bernie things.
Can you read? You don't want to read the Bernie one, or you want to address this?
Palestine exposes all these frauds. If they sell us out, they'll sell everyone out. Not surprised that a Zionist is praising the Gestapo policy of snatching people on the streets. Politicians are just theater, but they're all in one big club, and everyday people aren't in it. This is a response to Bernie Sanders' border comments. Palestine exposes all. They'll sell us out. Yeah, the language is like
turned.
Yeah.
based, baby. It's based.
Mhm. Well, I'll say this: there's supposed to be an idea that open borders is a leftist policy because the borders are open to money, but not to people, and whatever. So
Oprah.
Bernie has, yeah, when confronted with this in the past, Bernie has said that's a Koch brothers idea. No one is on the left is really trying to make that happen. And so I feel like he's always countering the idea that open borders are a leftist idea and something that he is pushing for. And that's why he says the things that he says.
It's minimum and maximum program again. If the erasure of state borders is your goal, you got to realize that it's not going to happen in your lifetime. Can you work towards that in the distant future? Sure, fine, by all means, do it. But it's not going to happen in your lifetime. The nation state structure is here to stay, and so is capitalism. I hate to tell you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that we can't work towards a gradual kind of transformation of it. It's not going to be 1917. You guys realize? I mean, not talking to you guys here, but in the chat, you guys realize that they have fucking drones that can shoot you from within, I don't know how far, miles. And you think that you're going to have a 1917 revolution? It's not going to happen. And you have to be realistic about that. The dialectic in our own time is much different than it was in the past. And we have to consider that. So I just think it's funny when these internet ultras, people like this, they have this kind of rhetoric, and it makes it sound like, you give these people power, they're going to enact, purges. They're going to purge everyone. Do they really have the capacity, the moral fibers, the ethics to kill tens, hundreds of thousands of people? Is that what they're going to do? Is it really what their platform is, that they want to get in office and kill all the groypers and Republicans because that's what Stalin would have done, or that's what whoever would have done? Just think about it.
Groypers, yes. Yes.
Groypers, yes.
Well, let me ask you guys this question: how does the demand for authenticity in modern politics collide with the need for disciplined, strategic messaging?
There's a difference between authenticity and integrity, and they should not be confused.
Elaborate.
What I'm saying is that we should demand integrity from our candidates. Authenticity is something that can be manufactured or contrived, but we should hope that our politicians have the integrity to be honest to their word and to be sincere about their actions and the policies that they advocate for.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
No, I agree with that as well.
How do independent media and social media shape leftist discourse today? Are they helping people radicalize or just creating these echo chambers that reward outrage and cynicism?
The latter, baby. The latter, baby. The latter.
Why do you feel that way, Pascal? Break it down.
Because social media does not allow the work of organizing, and it basically gives the voice to simply allow keyboard warriors to spout off without challenging their opinions, because everyone's anonymous, man. You can say whatever. Your mama.
That is true.
Your mama is reactionary.
Also, there's something to be said about just outrage being something that kind of binds people together, regardless of your political affiliation. If you just take nuance out of the equation and just be outraged and angry at everything, then you're probably going to have a pretty decent viewership.
But that's my view about what happened in China recently. China just passed a law that said that only people with degrees have a right to post informational content, like influencers. And a lot of people look at that and be like, well, I don't have a degree and blah blah blah, but it kind of does filter the bullshit in a way. You get a lot of people that post about Soviet history that are not Soviet historians at all, that I look at and I'm like, this is like really misleading bullshit. That they have a bigger following than me because they dress a certain way, they cosplay as a Soviet person or whatever. They're like, I can't combat that at all, despite the fact that like their viewpoint is completely lacking any kind of nuance or understanding. And I think that one of the comments made the point of media literacy. That's sort of the key. So, one thing that I always teach my students in some classes that I teach in the first day is uh, that all media is ideologically influenced, no matter what. You talk about NPR, BBC, you can talk about Fox News, InfoWars, whatever. There's all has an ideology behind it. The key is to just figure out what that ideology is. And the other thing that I teach them is that whether you know it or not, you all have an ideology. And so you have to first figure out what is your ideology, and then where's the media that aligns best with that. So I tell them, like, if you're a liberal, then New York Times is going to probably be your place to go. But you have to identify first what is your ideology, where does it align, and then figure out what media outlet or whatever. And then you have to be able to read that media in comparison to other media. So I also have them compare articles from People's World, which is the Communist Party newspaper, Communist Party rag in the United States, versus New York Times or Fox News or any
Wall
Al
Street Journal.
Jazeera. Huh?
The Wall Street Journal.
The Wall Street Journal. I have them compare the language there, and they see it right. Once they see it, it all clicks for them. We have a whole conversation about certain words, how words are used. Words like authoritarian, words like totalitarian, right? All of these very specific words that have a particular meaning for Americans. That media literacy is a big thing, and it's very easy for my students. I mean, I teach Zoomers. I teach in college. It's very easy for my students to fall into just absorbing social media content influencers. And these are people that, as Pascal and Jason have just been saying, it's all emotion based. It's all kind of rage baiting. It's all who can make the most articulate point by using the biggest words, right? I almost shared one with you, Jason, that was this guy trying to make a very simple point, but just used these big words that, were unnecessary. I remember one time in college, it was like I was a freshman, and I thought that I had to use big words. And so I was writing my first paper, and I was writing it with a thesaurus right next to me, and I was putting all these big words in. And I remember the professor called me after class, and she was like, "Alex, what does this word mean?" Out of context.
Yeah.
And I was like, and she's like, "Did you write this like with a thesaurus?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, just write it, how you would. Just use your own language. And I've done that ever since, and it works fine. And nobody's questioned like anything. And so you get a lot of that on social media. Just people kind of trying to muscle their intellect over other people, making the good point, the sharp point, trying to one up each other intellectually or whatever. And it's not healthy.
I mean, in left spaces, though, there's something to be said about being able to communicate and write a certain way that can get you in the leftist publications, because they are for a certain type of person, right? Jacobin, Current Affairs, Damage. There's no shade on these magazines. I think they have, important articles for people, but overall, it's for a certain type of person that's going to actually buy that magazine.
Yeah, but that's the case with all publications.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that. Oh,
I was going to say that all publications have an ideological bent, as Alex was saying, that takes its readers in a certain direction. I mean, people are reading Newsweek, but they're not reading Newsweek because they're, they got hammer and sickle T-shirts.
But the hammer and sickle T-shirt readers are reading magazines that do use a lot of big words.
Yes, Dostoevsky.
It doesn't have to be that way, though, is my point. I mean, the most effective organizers I mean, think about somebody like Michael Parenti, who you go online in these leftist spaces and you can see people always upload his speeches. The greatest orator in American communist history, in my opinion. All of his language is super easy, super simple. He doesn't talk about the means of production. He doesn't talk about commodity fetishism. He doesn't talk about alienation, but he explains those ideas in a very real world way that is so approachable to people, and that's why it was effective. And I think that it's not even a matter of those words. Sometimes it's just people want to, they're sitting there on their couch and it's almost like they're smoking the ganja or something like that, and they think of a they think of a they think of a point. Yeah, they think of a point, and that point is what you call like a high point. You ever like been with your friends while they're doing that, and they're like, why do worms when you cut them? And they're like, whoa, you just figured something out, man. You just unlocked the matrix. It's stuff like that where I feel like they're like sitting on their couch and they're like, Mandani must be a Zionist because he's going to put the IDF, he's going to keep the IDF soldier at the head of the New York Police Department. And everyone's like, whoa, you're right, man. You're right. He's a Zionist. And then they make a social media post about it, right? I feel like that's what happens.
I mean, hey, man. Say, man.
Well, look, we are coming up on an hour and a half. I want to thank Alex and Pascal and thank everybody watching for their patience as I did.
Why you didn't thank me? Okay.
Nope. I want to thank you for waking me up.
Oh, you are such a crowd.
Oh,
I had no idea who was calling me at 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning.
I was like, what is wrong with you?
I got to plug.
I just want to say, yes, please do. I just wanted to say that I only read the New York Times because they print the truth in the style section.
In the style section.
I don't think the New York Times prints the truth anywhere.
She says the style section.
They're pretty consistent in the style.
Elitist. She's an elitist. Don't, Alex, pitch your class. Don't listen.
I think that the New York Times actually has some pretty great journalism. It's when it covers things like climate change and it covers the problems with Palantir and all that stuff. I think its journalism is actually pretty good and it's a high standard. It's the opinions and its political responses that to me just aren't any good. Don't go to the New York Times for your politics. Go.
Foreign policy is pretty bad.
Yeah. Not a Barry Weiss fan?
No.
David Brooks the Crooks.
But I will. Wow. I will pitch my class. The end of December, I'm starting an online class, The History of European Socialism. So if you ever are curious about these people like I don't know, Victor Adler and August Bebel and I don't know, people that you've heard, or any of the party conferences, sort of monumental Gotha program, stuff like that. If you ever encounter these things, you don't know what happens or what they're about or from whence they come. It's a good opportunity to learn about it in historical context. We're going to go through the entire history of the socialist movement in European history, beginning with the French Revolution and going all the way until present day. It is going to be a 5-week class. We'll meet once a week for 5 weeks, is what I usually do. All of the texts should be provided. It'll be uploaded for you online. The way that it usually works is I do a lecture part and then we do a discussion on a shared reading or set of readings. And this one's going to be cool because these people are always talking to each other, sometimes shit talking, sometimes just bouncing ideas off of each other's heads. So we can see that dialogue between them. If you're interested in that, you can go to patreon.com/courses with Alex. And then you go to shop. And then in shop, you'll see the history of modern European socialism. That's where you would click on that. and then you'll buy it. And when you pay for it, it will enable, it will give you access to a Google Doc that has things like the Telegram channel, where it's our main mode of communication. It will have the folder where all the readings will be. They're not in there yet, but they will be in there. It will have the Zoom link and the syllabus. It'll have all that stuff in there. That's how you pay for it. But you have to go to shop, and you have to go to the history of modern European socialism. Don't subscribe to my Patreon. I still don't know why people do that. I don't want you to subscribe to the Patreon. I don't want your $1 a month. You don't have to do that. Just go to the Patreon and go to the shop. That's how it operates. But it's going to be a really fun class. I think, like I said, it's a great opportunity to learn about all of these things that you hear and you encounter and people talk about, but you might not know what they are, and to get into the debates about it all in the context of, what's going on in the world at that time. So that's my pitch. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on Instagram. It's @punksaround. Or you can email me or message Jason on X or wherever. I don't know where Jason operates these days. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Or if you want to take the class and you can't afford the full price, definitely reach out to me or Jason, and I'll help you out.
Jason is Batman.
Pretty much.
He's Batman.
Pretty
Well,
much.
you're-
I'm just secretly dropping memes in Pascal's Instagram inbox.
Will your class make me a better poster?
Poster as in
Online.
Posting online?
Oh, it will help you to understand when people misquote someone, or when they misrepresent someone's views, or when they refer to things like the, Gotha program, something like that.
It will clarify the dialectic.
It will clarify the historical dialectic for you, for sure.
That's important, because I need to know what the historical dialectic is, but I also need to know what a dialectic is.
Easy. We'll go over to class.
Last question for you guys. Is there room for political rehabilitation, or is that concept incompatible with the current moral economy of the online left?
Hey, anything's possible.
That's all you got.
Good answer. It's Family Feud. No, I concur. I would also like to thank my dear brother, Pascal, and comrade for convincing me to do this episode today. We are the left, and we do not throw people away, right? Unless you're like a serial killer. Maybe.
Damn, you're gonna throw away serial killers, huh?
Maybe we'll put you in a box, but we won't throw you away. But yes, we don't throw people away. We believe in rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. We like that sort of thing. But some people are further along in their rehabilitation than others at different points in time. And we can be patient with those people. We can help them out. We can support them. Sure.
Alex?
In general.
Some people really gonna hate this, but I do believe that all people are capable of rehabilitation, and that includes people who have committed murder, and it also includes, the much hated, vilified, rightfully so, pedophiles. I think everybody is capable of rehabilitation. It's the conditions that create criminality, not, any kind of although there are, of course, mental cases where people, there's something mentally, wires aren't all in. There are exceptions, and of course there are going to be people that are incapable of rehabilitation, but that doesn't mean that everybody doesn't deserve a chance. As soon as you imprison somebody, a prison is an opportunity to observe. That's what it's supposed to do, right? You're supposed to be observing how these people are behaving in the prison, and are they actually reforming each other? So if you got a serial killer, you arrested him or her, you put them in the prison, and you're observing that this guy or girl is still actually like actively trying to kill people, then don't rehabilitate them. It's simple. But if they go into prison and they're fine, they're all right. I mean, the Nordic countries already know this, that they can't be rehabilitated. Um, and I think that goes for everybody. Call me crazy, but if somebody murdered my best friend or murdered Jason, it doesn't mean that I would necessarily have to forgive them. It just means that I can believe that given time, given the right conditions and atmosphere, they might be able to be rehabilitated. Doesn't mean I have to engage with them. Doesn't mean that I have to fuck with them at all. Just means that you have that.
I think that's the hard part. People understand. I think that line where you have to get justice for so and so. It's like, well, what does that mean? That person's gone.
Yeah.
If you kill Jason, do you become Jason?
No.
Okay.
No. There can
It's
be only
good to have a definitive answer to that, in case anyone was wondering. But yes, I agree. It's a very small percentage of people that I believe cannot be rehabilitated. The vast majority of us, there is hope, I believe. Sure.
There is hope. So there's hope. There's hope for this election coming up next week.
Yeah, exciting times.
Mamdani will for sure win. I'm just interested to see what the political fallout's going to be from the White House.
Heads will explode.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that heads will definitely explode. But also, I kind of want to see these people who say that, Mamdani's trying to enact Sharia law in New York. I want to see them. What happens when that doesn't happen? You know what I mean? I want to see, like, I kind of want them to be like wowed, like, oh, okay, this is what a socialist actually believes in and advocates for. But
I mean, he's going to have a big machine running interference against anything he wants to do.
It's going to be a difficult time, man. It's literally the center of capitalism in the world. And he's running as a Democrat.
I'm interested to see what happens post this victory. Is it going to be one of those things where everybody? Kamala Harris recently said in a social media post, had I been elected, we'd be at brunch, kind of reiterating the bullshit line from a while back when Trump got in the first time.
Take your croissant eating ass to get a perm.
Brunch has been gentrified
by her.
Washing collard greens in the bathtub.
Well, that's why I don't want Mandani to dismantle his organization of volunteers. That's something that Obama did after he was elected. And he asked nothing of his supporters after he was elected. He was just like, watch me cook. And Mandani is going to need support from the people. He's going to need to be able to speak directly to people. I also hope he continues his communication directly with people, not through media.
Decepticon, you got snatched up by a big leftist. Virtuoso, thank you for the super chat. I voted for Mandami because he promised me that St. Patrick's Cathedral will be converted to a mosque.
Yeah.
The real law about to be enacted in New York. But for real, Toussaint, you're right. But also, he's gonna he's gonna fail in certain places. He's gonna make compromises with certain people. It's not a reason to just completely dismiss him, but it is. But again, like I said, hold that skepticism up, push the buck forward, but always weigh what your options are at the end of the day, and understand that politics is a giant game of negotiation that in many cases sucks. Nobody gets 100% of what they want, so you have to kind of expect and accept those failures. But there's a line, of course, and you measure for yourself where that line is.
Well, I feel like I crossed the line by sleeping in, and I want to thank T for trying to call me, Pascal and Alex for messaging me. I love the fact that you guys messaged me and didn't call because you were like, "We're not gonna." What is a telephone?
I knew you were asleep. I was like, you guys definitely asleep.
So fucking
I thought maybe if it's a Wi-Fi issue, it would be better if I called.
You called me, Tucson. I really was so asleep. I was so tarded at the end of the night last night because I had these weird habits. Like there was a couple dishes and I had to I have to mop the floor. You know, like I can't go to sleep with this.
Have to mop the floor?
Yeah, Pascal. Yeah.
Before you go to bed?
Before I go to bed, yeah.
It was a Diddy movie party. Diddy King. Mop the floor out there.
Yeah, get the baby oil up.
Pause.
I was like, oh, there's some crumbs fell. I got to do this. Like, I might as well mop. So I finally went to bed. I think at like 2, and instead of setting my 4:30 alarm, I set my 6:30 alarm, and I was like, I'll be fine. And I was just done. And my phone rang. I had no idea why Tucson was calling.
You like,
nigga, what do you want?
Yeah,
nigga, I'm awake. I'm awake, nigga. I'm awake.
Like, nigga, don't you know I'm trying to sleep?
Whoa. Jason had to take off his nightcap. Took off his bonnet. He was angry.
Tucson was like, that's the blackest you've ever sounded. She thought James Evans from Good Times answered the phone.
Jason, it was the wrong black dad. What I called.
No. Pascal, she was so shocked. She did this on the phone. She went, oh. Did I sound that mad?
You sounded so angry and horrible, and just, it wasn't even like the smooth radio voice you get here. It was gravelly. It was crotchety.
Jason turns into another person. He's tired.
I woke. The phone was ringing, and as the phone was ringing, I was like, who the fuck is calling me? As I was picking up the phone, I see these messages that you and Pascal had sent. I'm like, oh shit. So I wasn't trying to be like, bitch, what do you want? It was more like, okay, I'm up. But I guess that came out.
Yeah. Nigga, I'm awake.
Did I say?
What you want, fool? Break yourself, fool. Break yourself.
It's all right, Jason. We'll rehabilitate you.
That's right. There's hope for you.
Oh, shit. Did I really say?
You didn't say nigga, to be fair. The nigga was implied, though.
I so apologize. I'm crying. I so apologize if I niggered at you on the phone. Anyone I've niggered on the phone, I apologize. Pascal, Alex, Toussaint, so sorry for niggering at you guys on the phone.
Break yourself, fool.
She really did, though. She really did go, oh. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, what were you dreaming about that you
What was her name? What was her name?
Yeah.
I was dreaming I was in a 1940s movie because I've been watching all these black and white movies.
So you had a conch.
Well,
Yeah,
old-fashioned snow bunnies. Old-fashioned snow bunnies. What I tell you about that, Jason? Let's tell you about the snow bunnies.
With a sick Dr. Umar on you.
Alex six Dr. I sent Alex these white girl memes all the time, and he just responds with Umar.
Yeah, I do. That's for real.
He does. He really does.
I really do. I'm not joking.
No, my brother.
Every time Jason sends me white girl memes, I respond with Dr. Umar. I don't even say anything. No words. No words. Just, how dare you?
Nobody's never. Black queens forever.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. So I started sending him black girl memes, but he got even more mad.
Oh boy. You weren't supposed to know about that, Jason.
Damn.
You sent me like thirst traps that are like this girl explaining how to make a fucking apple pie or something with her boobs out, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand. Why is she like? There was one. What was it? It was a recent one. She was explaining like I don't remember. It was like
She was making something. She was actually making a dish.
no, there was one you sent me. She was explaining like electoral laws or something. And I was like, well, why are her boobs out while she's explaining this to me? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't care. Like the content creators who rely on that stuff, it irks me because it's like this is the cheapest way to cultivate attention. You can have the dumbest argument, but as long as you get sometimes you get those memes where somebody will say something like Israel's committing a genocide and then like do this thing, and you're like, what the fuck does that have to do?
It was this video right
Sell
here.
by and use by date. The best by date is about quality.
Alex,
Why is she explaining this in a bathing suit?
Oh, today's.
It's hot. It's hot where she is.
Why is she explaining use by, sell by dates in a freaking bathing suit? I don't get it.
Because she's got today's.
Alex goes, what is this about? I was like, I thought this would be important for
I think it's AI too.
No, she's real. She's a real Vietnamese woman.
She's Vietnamese. Oh, interesting.
Don't do a racism.
Jesus. Alex wanted to clean out his pantry, so
I
he
sent
used
this
some
to
information.
Alex as well.
He said that to me. What did I say?
Who's
I
that?
said, I think.
Is that a Halloween costume?
That's
Yes.
her Halloween costume. Yes. No, I hope that's not where she wears to go to the bodega.
I certainly hope not.
Freddy Krueger never dressed in that. He never had his titties out like that. Like, that's a bad costume, in my opinion. It's not good. The excuse that Halloween has become for people to dress like, for women, it's dressing like that. For men, it's dressing as Nazis. You see that video? Like the excuse
I didn't see it. I heard about it. That
the
somebody
excuse
dresses
that
as
Halloween has become for people to dress like absolute, like, lunatics is kind of crazy.
And then there's the blackface.
Blackface has calmed down a little bit. The Nazi one this year was kind of concerning. Nobody just punched him. You should have just punched that guy. They kicked him
Didn't they
out, and they
punch
were
him?
like,
Didn't they?
I
Didn't they
don't
hit
think
him?
so.
Yeah, I thought that
They
was the whole
yelled
thing.
at
Like
him.
there was an attack, wasn't there? Somebody was talking about it yesterday or day before
I
yesterday.
thought they
think
were just
Bill.
yelling at him. They were
I don't
yelling
know.
at him. They're like, "Get out of here! You blah blah blah. My family was blah blah blah. All that stuff." And he was just like, "Well, it's just a costume. It's just a costume."
I think I told you guys there's a kid here, and he's a kid. He just dresses in historically accurate outfits from time to time. I don't know what his deal is. Sometimes he'll look like a businessman from the 40s. He'll have the hat, and you'll walk by him, and he'll just like have a pocket watch, and then like and a briefcase, and just like kind of run off. And I'm like, who the fuck is this kid? And one day he had a
It's a
full
Monopoly
Nazi.
man.
He had a full Nazi outfit on one day, the boots, everything. And he was just walking around downtown. It's a Mexican kid. I have no idea what his deal is. He takes his cosplay shit very seriously, but I've never seen anybody talk to him either.
Probably
He
Nick
thought he was
Fuentes.
in Argentina.
He thought it was-
Nick Fuentes.
Wrong country.
if
Sorry.
you look at him too hard, though, he gets scared and he kind of runs away. Because I just want to ask him, like, what the fuck is your deal? Sometimes you'll have full-on Russian or Soviet uniforms. Just
Yeah, where's he
very
getting this
odd.
stuff from?
I don't know. It's very, very odd. Very odd. Someone says autism is amazing. Maybe. Yeah, Bill was
Can't
talking about
say that.
Oh, that's a bad thing. I'm being serious. What makes one dress in historically accurate? It's not Halloween. There's no holiday. He just does it. He doesn't rile people up. He doesn't try to talk to anyone. He's not handing out a fucking leaflet. I don't understand.
I don't
Kaiser
understand why he
Wilhelm,
does
Kaiser
it.
Wilhelm.
Maybe his mom was a frustrated history teacher.
Weirder. That's even weird.
A lot of people wear stuff like that. Like I watch women on YouTube who wear like dresses from the 1800s. You know, those clothes are made very different. There's an appreciation for that, and you know, I don't understand why you would switch eras. Though I feel like that's a little, well, maybe
He
40s.
switches it up.
Maybe
I
maybe he's a 1940s guy. No,
I don't. But he has the big hats. Like some of the outfits he wears are really nice. And I want to ask him, do you make these clothes to be historically accurate? Are you buying them somewhere? Like, dude, just talk to me. I just want to know, are you a fashion guy? Is this some Kanye shit?
no,
I want to know.
Is he wearing
'Cause-
zoot suits? Maybe he's just into the 40s, but I don't understand the switching like that. Like
Right?
most people pick an era and they stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's everyone in that era, though.
Hmm.
He's a time traveler.
He's Jim Carrey.
Oh, that's why he got
in
the pocket watch.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Even though I walked by him one day because I wanted to say something, and he just took out his pocket watch and he kind of looked at me and he just like, took off. I was like, so fucking weird.
Yo, Tango, why are you doing that?
Yo,
Because he's worried you're onto his time traveling. He's like, you can't let this guy figure out.
This black guy's onto me.
the colored fella's on to me. See,
He looks like
Maybe
he's
that's
angry in
what-
the morning.
Maybe in the future, it's a black guy that invents time travel. So he's coming back to be like, I gotta stop this black guy from figuring out.
he's trying to stop.
Ah.
It's you, Jason. That's why, because you finally get the courage to ask him, and he slips. He lets you know that it's the flux capacitor or something like that, and then you run with that idea. You make millions from it, and you stop podcasting, and you become buddies with Mark Zuckerberg, and he's from the future. He's like, I gotta stop this guy from committing this
horrible crime that is Facebook.
This lifeline.
Alex,
then
how many
MySpace
episodes-
lives on
how many
forever.
times did you watch Back to the Future?
I just watched it like a month ago, my dog.
Libyans, Marty.
That's why flux capacitor. That's why I remembered it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have
I
remembered
knew
it.
it.
All right, well let's go, guys. This someone said he's the 2B Doctor. That's fucked up. Thank you guys for joining me again. Thank you, Toussaint, and I'm so sorry for niggering at you. Thank you.
Like something a dog can do.
This dog keeps niggering at my leg. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody.
All right, y'all.
Have a good. I almost said good night.
Peace.
That too. Peace.